Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So first up today, we have an important chart that was shared by Bloomberg, just showing profit margin or operating margin for Tesla in the blue, Toyota in the black, VW gray, BYD in the red. Now, most of us already know these numbers, but there are some very important takeaways. One, look at the trend for Toyota, VW, and BYD. Over the last decade or so, they have hovered anywhere between 0 and 10%, which is relatively low variance. This is important because most Wall Street analysts still think that Tesla's profit margins have to eventually come down. The argument is still that what Tesla is doing is unprecedented. They think they're just riding this new wave of electric vehicles and that at some point their profit margins will come down. Tony Sacconaghi literally just put out a note this morning talking about this exact thing. So it just seems like what they're still failing to realize is that Tesla is always aggressively driving down costs. Hopefully lithium-ion battery costs continue to decline as more and more are produced globally, while simultaneously over time Tesla is going to have access to more what? Revenue from software, which has close to 100% margins, which of course at scale will be able to drive up their profit margins even higher. It's just a good reminder that one of the main big money arguments against Tesla is that they cannot sustain these profit margins so high above the rest of the industry, and it's just something that I fundamentally disagree with. Nevada Senator Dina Neal has been criticizing the way that Tesla's abatement package for the Giga Nevada expansion has been handled, essentially saying that because the details were under an NDA, that the public has not had enough time to go through how these abatements may actually impact them in the future. This vote is actually set to be held on March 2nd. Her problem is that the details of Tesla's request for the abatements won't be made public until a few days before this vote, and she's just asking for more time for the public and the government to understand what the impact of these abatements may be. Ultimately, though, this pushback from the senator is more likely to impact dealings in the future than this specific case, so we'll wait for the vote on March 2nd and see how it goes. However, we are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars for these tax abatements, so it's something to watch. The Kilowatts was out in Fremont going through the parking lot and found some changes to some of the vehicles in the lot. So here we have a side-by-side comparison of the new fender camera over here on the left compared to the old fender camera on the right. So it's pretty obvious to see on the new ones, this camera looks to be pointing outward more, where on the older version, it was definitely pointing to the rear more. You may also notice on the new camera, this red hue or tint on the actual lens. So that always could be a glare. However, the word on the street is that this could be some sort of anti-glare technology, because if you have a Tesla, you'll know that every now and then the cameras are unusable due to the glare from the sun. However, so far that's just speculation on my part. Now we're looking at the new B-pillar camera and the old B-pillar camera. So again, I don't want to read too much into the size because this could just be a perspective and a distance difference. However, again, you do notice this red tint on the lens itself. Looking at the front-facing camera enclosure, it's also definitely changed with the new version on the left. And yes, this is supposed to be with hardware 4, more on that in a second. However, we were supposed to be going down to 2 cameras with higher resolution, but from this image, it's pretty tough to tell. There does seem to still be 3 openings, but honestly, at this point and just from this image, it's too early for me to speculate more than just looking at the picture. And finally, we have the new rear camera, which is above the license plate. It looks like it may have been moved over a touch, and again, from this angle, the new cameras do look a bit bigger, and this new camera does indeed have the red tint over the lens as well. Another change they spotted was the removal of the Tesla T on the back, and it's been replaced with the actual word Tesla. Both of these Model S and X vehicles in the images did not have the ultrasonic sensors in the vehicle, which would be a good indication at this point that they are indeed employing hardware 4. Here's a front shot of the Model S with no ultrasonic sensors. But where things get confusing is that we just saw some of those leaks from Green the Only, and he was talking about how hardware 4 may have at least room or connections for 12 cameras, and we were expecting to see 3 new ones, maybe on the front of the vehicle somewhere on the bumper. As you may have noticed though, we're not really seeing anything like that. So Could it be that that 12 camera design is only going to be for the Cybertruck? I think it's a possibility, but again, I'm just guessing here, so we just have to wait and see what happens. And that's not all. Some of the new Model S and X vehicles are now being produced with the round steering wheel, but still no stock. If you're worried that this steering wheel looks massive, don't worry. The Kilowatt said that it was just the perspective wide angle lens, making it look like it's a ginormous wheel. And here's one more image. Another question that many people have is, will this be the same wheel that eventually gets used in the 3 and Y if Tesla decides to remove the stocks from those vehicles eventually as well? I do think that would be a risky decision because it's definitely not a consensus popular decision. On this new wheel for the S and X, you still have the capacitive buttons for the horn and the turn signals directly on the wheel, no stocks. So fingers crossed that in 1 week from today at Investor Day, we get some more information on what's going on. We don't need to touch on this article too much. We were actually fortunate enough to break this news now months ago that Tesla was just going to take some of the electrodes and other battery components and ship them to the United States to Austin to just take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act incentives. Some level of 4680 cell production has started in Berlin, but the focus for Tesla is definitely going to be on cell production in the States. We did learn though that cars produced at Giga Berlin would in the near future contain batteries assembled locally. Anybody's guess what near future means. The last time we really heard anything official about the 4680 production in Berlin was March of last year, when Elon said that it's going to be a 50 gigawatt hour production facility and that they were looking to hit that by the end of 2023. But again, that has since been pushed back because the focus is on the United States. The first video we get today of the Cybertruck is from Tesla Truck Club on Twitter. Unfortunately, it's of potato quality, but you get the hint. It's just adjusted all the way up when it comes to the suspension. As you can see, it almost looks ridiculous and makes those wheels look very small. If you pause here and zoom in, you can see that it looks, at least from this angle, like the back of the bed is coming up to this gentleman's neck. Luckily though, that was not the only video that we got. We got this higher quality version walk around from Drive Tesla Canada. This one should come as no surprise, but I think this will also be a non-story. What we have here is the New York State Senator Sean Ryan essentially calling for an investigation into the recent firings at Tesla's factory in Buffalo, which did happen right after some of the employees started talking about unionization. Personally though, I'm not worried about this. I do not at all think Tesla would just be that reckless to outright just fire people without having cause and without actually having that semi-annual review process where they'll be able to defend themselves when something like this was inevitably going to happen. We got a new press release from Ford saying that they're teaming up with LG Energy and Koch Holding to create a new battery facility in Turkey. This is expected to break ground later this year. First production is set for 2026, and they're committing to at least 25 gigawatt hours of annual production capacity that could be expanded in the future up to 45 gigawatt hours, roughly the size of present-day Giga Nevada. Subway is now planning to build electric car charging oases with green spaces, bathrooms, and playgrounds. This will be in partnership with Gen Z EV Solutions. They do, however, say they're going to start with smaller format fast charging stations at some of its current locations this year, and these bigger oases will be sometime down the road. We don't have a ton of information on this right now, but at least here's one image of what these may look like in the future. If you're a Rivian R1T reservation holder of the Max Pack variety, you may have been expecting your delivery this month. However, Rivian sent out an email pushing that back until April so that they can make necessary changes to the configurator. Just a quick Rivian fun fact in case you didn't know, Rivian has actually recorded a bunch of sounds out in nature and then used some of those and modified some others to be the main sounds for the vehicle. For example, their pedestrian warning sound is based on wind and water, the wood-like thump for the turn signals, and a double chirp vehicle lock sound based on the call of a mountain bluebird. On Instagram, GM Canada just came out with a new announcement that they are planning to invest in the St. Catharines facility to manufacture their own drive units for their upcoming EVs. They're expecting eventual production of more than 400,000 EV drive units per year. Apparently, all of the cool kids are doing this now, as VW has also announced it will be developing and building its own EV drive units. We've been talking about this now for years. These other companies have to do things like this. They have to vertically integrate to have any chance of catching Tesla when it comes to margins and control over the entire system. Not only that, but being able to shorten their supply chain so they can actually ramp up their production to some meaningful EV volume. They said, we're taking over the development of pulse inverters and thermal management systems as well. In the future, this will make the VW Group one of the only car manufacturers in the world that's able to offer a holistically optimized complete system. I'm not sure what world they are living in. Here we have Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, spewing some nonsense. Listen to this. Speaking of regulations for emission limits and pollutants being limited for nitrogen oxides and carbon monoxide by 2025, he said, they're not helpful, they're costly. It doesn't bring customers benefits, it does not bring environmental benefit. The ICE emission part is something which just makes no sense. He went on to say that these regulations are useless. Well, I would just counter with these comments from Carlos are useless, not helpful, and make no sense. Some of you may remember this little blurb we mentioned at the beginning of this month. Tesla was preparing a new Silicon Valley office for AI talent. Well, fast forward to today and it's actually been made official, as Elon Musk has met with California Governor Newsom to confirm these plans. This meeting that took place at Tesla's new engineering office in Palo Alto, California, is now being dubbed HQ2. It's going to be to hire engineers proficient in research development and artificial intelligence. Tesla is taking over the lease for the office space, which was previously occupied by Hewlett-Packard. The plans will help accelerate efforts to produce autonomous driving and robot technology. So it seems like Austin is going to be the Tesla headquarters, or HQ1, and this new Palo Alto office will be Tesla's engineering headquarters, or HQ2. Now, sure, it may be a bit surprising that Elon and Tesla have chosen to expand into California after all of the comments Elon has made about the state over the past few years. However, you have to keep in mind a large portion of the software AI engineering talent is currently in that general area. I would just add, you don't really hear too much about Ford, Toyota, GM, VW doing too much in the way of trying to go get AI talent. I don't think there's a ton of it out there, at least relative to other industries, and I can't tell you when this massive wave is going to crash for Tesla, crash in a great way, the best way possible, but I do know that it's coming this decade. Along similar lines though, today Mercedes-Benz said they teamed up with Google to offer supercomputer-like performance and navigation in every car with automated driving sensors. The chief exec said that every single car that is set to be launched mid-decade on the new operating system MB.OS will have a supercomputer in it. Honestly, I think it's one of the only moves that these legacy companies have left. They can't just start hiring talent and developing things in-house, because it's going to take them at least 5 to 10 years to design and build some of these things in-house. So the fact is, I would expect to see plenty more of this in the years to come. You can find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.